Hey everyone, my name is Antonio Smith, and today I'll be presenting the history of surfing cars, from the rotting family car to high-tech off-roading machines. So before I start, let me just provide an outline for the presentation. To start, we'll cover the early surf cars, figuring out what surfers really look for in a car. Next, we'll move forward on the timeline, looking at the buses and vans that dominated the beach. After that, we'll take a look at the rigs that people have today. From expensive overlanders to cheap crossovers, there's much variety as ever. Finally, we'll take a glimpse at the van life moment, connecting all of the topics together into the broader themes of surfing and surf culture. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, since the popularity of surfing, surfers have always been looking for a way to get around, but not everyone has Corvette money like Moondoggy from Gidget. In fact, almost no surfer had that sort of money. And in order to carry 10-foot longboards that each weigh around 80 pounds, they needed something big and sturdy. And so, what did many of the first surfers rely on as a car? Well, nothing could beat a good old American-built Woody. As the first real surf car, it accomplished exactly what surfers needed. Space for boards? Had plenty of it. Room for all your buddies? Well, most of these were equipped with 3 rows, plenty for all your friends. Best of all, they were dirt cheap. By the 1950s, seemingly everyone had traded in their Woodies for the sleeker wagon, leaving their Woodies just to rot in their garage. This was the perfect opportunity to surfers to pick up the cheap, turning them into a universal surfmobile. It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, however, as these wood-paneled wagons came with a lot of problems, such as rotting, splintering, and even moisture damage. Moving on to the next car, we start to move forward in technology, but the idea stays the same. Buy the cheapest car that gets you to the beach and back with your friends. And so, what better car to do that in than an old 1950s Chevy sedan? Whether it be a Bel Air, a 210, or a Fleetline, if it's got 4 wheels, it'll get the job done. Well, most of the surfers' examples were covered with rust and dents. It didn't matter. Actually, famously, Mickey Dora had a rig just like this, riding around Malibu in his own Chevy setup. He's even been caught racing on the north shore of Oahu in one of these. Just take a look at this video.
Now let's look at the first annual Great Race from Sunset Beach to Kaina Point. Jim McKay Wildflower and ABCD Wide Weird Wonderful World of Sports. We're there.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim McKay Flower and ABCD Wide Weird World of Sports. We're here. The drivers are ready. They're lining up alongside the road. I think right now the track's being cleared by a sweeper. No car younger than 1950 can enter. Every car must run on 4 cylinders, and the gun is up.
And the race is on, and they're off. Billy Hamilton makes a mad dash for the Buick. Meanwhile, Butch Van Artendale is trying to open his car door.
Alright, you get the point. But something that you may have noticed about these cars is that the price. They were all pretty similar in price. Affordability is something that was super important when looking at surf cars. Most surfers lacked the ability to afford new cars, or even nice used cars. Instead, they were always on the hunt for the cheap. This can actually be seen in a book like Barbarian Days, where William Finnegan buys a 1951 Ford for only $125, which is equivalent to a little less than $1,000 today. While the price might seem like a small detail for most, it actually plays a huge part into the context of surfing culture in the 60s. Similar to the hippie movement in some way, lots of surfers wanted to live a life that went against the establishment, and I think that Finnegan's memoir is a perfect example of that and really represents the surfer's life and how a vehicle might type into that journey. Cars are never a mainstay of surfing, but they do provide a background for the surfing to occur. This moves on to the next idea, which is the idea of the car being the background for surfing, which plays perfectly into this type of vehicle, the van. Whether it be a flat 4 air-cooled VW bus or a 50s Ford Econoline, surfers wanted something that couldn't just hold their friends and boards during the day, but something they could live in. Often equipped with a mattress and all your belongings, and maybe even a small kitchen if you could afford it, these were road trip machines. While the VW bus may have struggled to make it cross-country, it was easy to work on cheap workhorse that could easily get you to the beach back and forth. Easily-ish, I say, just because there were some reliability issues with the VW bus, as many people who've owned them know. These vehicles marked a turning point, however, for the surfing Since the popularization of chasing waves all around came in the minds of everyone after the endless summer craze, everyone was looking to get into the action. And this sort of early version of van life played into the escape of surfing. Now, you weren't just escaping from the real world for the summer and going back to your regular life like the guys in Gidget. You were escaping from reality forever, living to surf. When we look at today, a lot of things have changed. While some things have stayed the same, there's also been plenty of changes. One thing that I noticed in my personal experience at the beaches in Orange County is the lack of affordable surf rigs. I feel like nowadays there's no recognizable surf car that isn't at least the price of a brand new car. You either stick with a classic car like a VW bus or resort to expensive setups like a Mercedes Sprinter or Toyota Tacoma. Thanks to modern car technology though, any car can be a surf car. These two cars are my car and a member of the car club I'm in cars. As you can see, with roof racks, any car can keep the spirit going. As for my car, even a modern two-door coupe like mine can fit a shortboard on the inside, which I've done a couple of times now. Now, looking at popular options, we see a rise in the popularity of many small SUVs, which are perfect for transporting boards and a couple people, and with all-wheel drive are capable in terms of getting to some of the harder spots. For example, here's a picture of a Subaru Outback I spotted at Seal Beach with some boards attached to the roof, a pretty common sight. Subaru has become a pretty popular car brand for all outdoor sports, being great for people who love adventures, or claim to love adventures but really just drive to work back and forth and occasionally go on a dirt road. In addition to this, some people are still rolling with the same thing they've had since their youth. Again at Seal Beach, I saw a perfect example of this. This 70s G-Series van from Chevy would have been a pretty common sight a few decades ago, and it's good to see that it's still on the road today. Vans like these usually end up rotting out with rust, especially with the salt in the air from being so close to the coast. It's also pretty common to see VW buses on the road still, but you won't often see them leave their residential roads or PCH. All of these different cars bring me back to the big problem with vehicles today. They're just so expensive. A new Mercedes Sprinter can range from $50,000 to nearly $120,000 just for the van itself. That's not even accounting for the various camper van and off-roader modifications that are made, which is at the very least an additional $10,000 to $15,000, and in some cases can cost an additional $100,000 to $150,000. That means that many are spending upwards of $300,000 on their vans. And so we begin to ask, how did we stray so far away from the original idea of surfing cars? What happened to buying a family's old wagon for $100 cash? In a way, it's sort of the fault of social media. Surfing has always struggled with its relationship with the mainstream, ever since the 1950s, and honestly, it seems like it's only gotten worse. While films like Gidget have brought kooks to the beach, the van life movement is bringing rich millennials into expensive rigs to do the same hobbies that people have been doing for decades, trying to glamorize it and show it as some sort of life-changing experience on social media. This is a whole other topic that would take a long time to go in depth with, but I do think it's interesting to mention, just because the way in which a lot of ideas in surfing intersect with each other, sort of creating a large cohesive web of all the culture ideas that have happened in surfing over the decades. Overall, I think that when we look at each era of surf cars, they actually all represent the time in which surfing occurred in American culture. From the early surf days being represented by Woodies, to the 60s and 70s being full of vans, to the expensive camper rigs and people rocking whatever they want, I think that each generation of the surfer car has its own place. For me personally though, I think the coolest car has always been the VW buses, but maybe that's just the Euro car in me. Thank you for listening. Here's my works cited.